Hi, my name is Roz Humphreys, and we are doing the Dead Weight series. And today's question is: do you hear God in your times of worry? Do you hear God in your times of worry? And most of us will probably say, no, we do not hear God. And have you ever wondered why? You know, if you take the time to read John chapter 4, verse 24, it says that God is spirit. He is spirit. And we are to worship him in spirit and in truth. You know, you are spirit, and God communes with your spirit through his spirit. He doesn't commune through emotions. And a lot of times what we do, especially when we're in crisis or when we're feeling awful, we usually commune through our soul, right? He's hearing what's going on with our emotions, our mind, our intellect. He's not hearing from our spirit. So check this out. It says in Romans 8:16 in the Message, God touches our spirit and confirms who we really are. And the NIV says, the spirit testifies with our spirit. So we are spirit, and a lot of times we forget that we are spirit. So what is truth? Or should we say, who is truth? If you read John chapter 14, verse 6, it says Jesus is the truth. So remember, we said that we're supposed to worship God in spirit, right? And we have our own spirit inside of us, spirit to spirit, and in truth. And in the same verse, it says that Jesus is the way. So if your worry, for example, is more than your prayer, then the weight of your worry will win. Let me repeat that one more time. If your worry is more than your prayer, then the weight of your worry will win. Worry, we said it the last time, is when you rehearse the negative what ifs in your head that never happen. So when you pray in worry, your prayer is a laundry list of what you need and suggestions of how God should fix it. How many of us have done that, right? And with commercial breaks of the complaints. How many of those done that? We've all done that, right? And that is not prayer, and that is your soul speaking, not your spirit. That is your soul speaking and not your spirit. So your spirit has to align with God's spirit. So how do you align with God's spirit? If you read James chapter 4 verse 7, it says to submit to God and be obedient. To submit to God and be obedient. So if you really look at it, right? Um if you submit to God, you're being obedient basically, because what you're doing is you're doing exactly what he asks of you in scripture. And in my book, Spirit Gal, I dedicated actually a whole chapter on obedience, because obedience is very, very important to God. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to read just a little bit about it so that you can get the gist of it, right? Because sometimes we forget. So check this out. It says, I sat across one of my favorite pastors and asked Eddie, give me your explanation of faith. He answered with one word: obedience. Obedience. If you look at all the biblical heroes and even the kingdom heroes of today, they all have one thing in common: obedience. This is a pretty straightforward topic. You have to say yes or no, or do or don't do, basically whatever God asks of you. This is easier said than done, and often we think of the big stuff that we're afraid to do and run away from. But God usually tests us in the smaller things. Remember when Joyce Meyer said, put away the cart at the grocery store? Why? Because God won't give you the bigger stuff if you can't show obedience in the smaller stuff. He will test you in the area of obedience over and over and over again. The almost comical thing about God is that if you fail his test, he will continue to give it to you until you pass it. How many of us have been there? So in order for you to connect with God's spirit, there has to be obedience. And obedience allows you to hear God, which in turn addresses some of the weight of worry that you may have in your life. So the next time, what we're going to be covering is how do you remove the weight of worry?